Bad news for Project Motor Racing. This team statement has just been released from the developer of Project Motor Racing, Straightfall Studios, and it's evident now that the game is not going the way that they had anticipated. However, since day one I played the game in the Sim Racing Expo and the videos and streams I've done on it, it's been crystal clear to me what the issues with the game are and how they should have marketed this. They can still do some of these, but they've also completely missed the boat. They've missed the community. They missed the opportunity to impress everyone day one. So in this video, we're going to go through this team statement and I'm going to let you know what they should have done and what they should still do for Project Motor Racing. So the team statement says, today Straightfall is sharing news we had hoped never to deliver. So it's pretty clear that their expectations have not been met. After exploring every possible alternative, late last week we reached the heartbreaking conclusion that we had to reduce the size of our team. Essentially, the game hasn't sold enough to justify the size of the team at the moment. This decision is not a reflection of the talent or dedication of the people affected. Every individual who worked in Project Motor Racing poured passion into it. I completely agree with that. I think the developers are very talented. I think they're extremely passionate, having spoken with them, and I don't think that's where the issues with the game really lie, which we're going to get onto. It's such an important point. We recognise the personal weight of this moment and we're committed to supporting each departing team member with care and respect. It is a sad moment because we're seeing developers, we're seeing passionate people about sim racing games potentially leaving sim racing. Now at the same time they say, we want to be transparent about the path ahead. Straightfall remains fully committed to improving and supporting Project Motor Racing. I just find this like so stupid, so avoidable, that it was so obvious this was going to happen, but we'll get into it. We know the launch didn't meet the expectations of our community or the standards we set for ourselves. They set the expectations of the community. They said this was going to be an unbelievable sim with unbelievable AI, unbelievable handling, real true to track development. They didn't say it was going to be a SimK. They didn't talk about the tire temperatures and the physics enough. Anyway, we'll get into it. Our focus now is on rebuilding trust by strengthening the game update by update. I think it's too late for that. The team remains determined to refine the physics, enhance systems and bring the experience closer to what our community has always believed it could be. This is where unfortunately they're still missing the point. They are trying to bring a game to the community that is just impossible. The vision that they are sold to the community is impossible to fulfill. There is no way that this game can outsell Gran Turismo 7 on PlayStation. There's no way it can be more popular in ranked lobbies than iRacing on PC. This game cannot be everything to everyone, but the statement still says they're determined to try and do that. That is a path to sure failure. To our players and partners, thank you for your patience, honesty and unwavering passion. Your feedback is guiding the work already underway. Because they botched it at launch so much, the feedback is too confusing. There's too much confusing feedback. Anyway, let's keep going. To our team, thank you for your resilience and belief in the vision we share. To our community, not sure what the difference is between the community and the players, but there we go. This is an undeniably difficult chapter, but we remain committed to moving forward, rebuilding and delivering something worthy of the trust you place in us and our partners, aka how much you've paid in terms of buying the game. Now, this is the thing, okay? I played Project Motor Racing at the Sim Racing Expo. I immediately said, in content and to the developers, this is a very unusual handling game. It is extremely tire dependent, okay? I said, you need to add an engineer into the game that advises the players on tire temperatures. Because I play Le Mans Ultimate, I play iRacing, I play Gran Turismo 7, I play all sorts of games and sims on that spectrum. They all have different expectations on the player in terms of tyre temperatures. Now if you want to come in here, Project Motor Racing, and be a big new sim, you need to explain to the player what the tyre situation is going to be like. You cannot expect a Gran Turismo player to buy this on PlayStation and think it's going to be an amazing game if they literally cannot drive the car for the first 2 laps. Okay? Now at the Sim Racing Expo, it seemed to me that the tyres heated up too quickly. It seemed to me they overheated way too quickly, and once they overheated, there was no saving it. That's not fun. That might be super realistic, but that's not fun. And the reason why we're playing this as a game is because we're not professional racing drivers. So we want to have fun. You know, if Ben Collins spins the car, he might come in and say change all 4 tyres because his tyres are cooked, or you know, the tyres are too hot, I've got to sit here a bit for them to cool down. We don't have that luxury when we come home from work and we want to have good, fun racing. We're not professional racing drivers. We shouldn't be able to jump into the Mazda 787B and drive it if it's a hardcore simulator. But the most important thing is that we can drive the Mazda 787B, which means that the game has to be a game, not a hardcore simulator. And the marketing from Project Motor Racing was all about being this like ultra simulator. And I never believe it. I never ever believe it, because we are not professional racing drivers and we can't be expected to drive these cars if they were to handle one-to-one like the real thing. So I gave this feedback publicly into the developers at the Sim Racing Expo. And then what did we see? When the press version of the game was released, so just before launch, they launched they gave a press version. It was really hard to heat the tyres up. You ended up driving for 2 laps and the tyres still weren't really in the zone. They didn't explain that to anyone. So many people reviewed this game, and I don't really blame the reviewers because so many people reviewed it and are just driving around on cold tyre spinning. Now, A, I don't think that's fun. B, I think tyre warmers should have been defaulted on, which is another piece of feedback I gave. And C, it should have come with a pop-up or the engineer saying, your tyres are cold, you are going to spin if you push too hard. And the irony is today, I've been playing the press version of Le Mans Ultimate, and there is a pop-up. There is a pop-up that says, by the way, without tyre warmers, your tyres are going to be very cold, you may spin, take it a bit easy. That puts me on notice as the player. So I think Project Motor Racing completely screwed that up by not either making it a little bit more accessible, by not having tyre temperatures so important to the game, or B, saying, well, no, we are a hardcore tyre simulator and you need to be aware of that, and we're going to let you know and we're going to help you, and we're going to start you with cars that are easier to drive, and then we're going to explain how tyre temperatures work. It did none of that. It assumed, Project Motor Racing assumes that the player playing it is essentially Ben Collins the Stig, with all of that imported knowledge and experience. But we are not the Stig. We are part-time sim racers, we are working in the day, and then we are coming home and we are driving for fun. So that's one huge area where Project Motor Racing could have set the expectations more clearly. Then we get on to the AI. They talked about the AI so much, oh my goodness, and that there were other news outlets, there were even people from, I think, Straightforward Studios who were making videos saying, look how amazing the AI is. The AI in the game is clearly designed with a very narrow vision of what AI in a sim racing title should be, which is essentially very boring, doesn't give up any positions easily, rarely overtakes, and essentially goes around in a line. But that line is a good line, so therefore it's good AI. That's not what we want in racing AI in a sim. We want dynamism. Let me give you another example. When they're driving the Mazda 787B in real life back in the day, they're doing endurance races. They're driving for 12 hours, okay? When we drive the Mazda 787B, we're doing a stylized race that might be 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, half an hour would be a long race. So we want to see more dynamism in there. It's the same reason why FIFA, the football game, whatever it's called now, has more end-to-end action, because the game lasts about 15 minutes, not 90 minutes in a real-world football match. So here again, when we're driving against the AI, we want to see more action, we want to see more overtakes. It should be of a higher velocity than you would in real life, because we're not driving it like real life. And this is what I think Project Motor Racing never really, honestly, I think understood, is that we are playing this game as a portal to experience these incredible cars that drove in real life and the brave drivers that drove them, but we don't need to do it in a one-to-one way. We don't need to spend 2 laps warming up the tyres, because we're not going to be there for the whole weekend. We've only got an evening, and I want to cycle through a few cars and a few tracks. Or if you want to make it a really hardcore sim with like very brutal AI that doesn't really overtake and all the tyre warming, then you need to market at that, and don't entice people who play Gran Turismo thinking this is going to be a great kind of accessible game on console. You cannot be both things. This is my point. You cannot be both things. So we've covered the tyres, we've covered the AI. Let's talk about the physics and handling. As I said, the first time I tried it in Germany, and I said this publicly, the handling is unusual. The way the force feedback works is unusual. Now, whether it's the most realistic, to me, I don't agree with. Jimmy Broadbent doesn't seem to agree with it. He drives GT4s, race GT4s. I've driven a Ferrari GT, I've raced Mazdas. I don't agree with it. I'm not sure what Super GT's thoughts are with it, but he didn't seem to have a great time on the controller. So sim racing influencers who also drive real cars don't think it's realistic. So you're already in troubled ground, and therefore it's kind of our word against their word, or like the Sticks word it seemed to be in reality, in terms of the force feedback going light at certain moments. The way when you push the tyres, the resistance you get is very different to other sims. And we are used to playing iRacing, Le Mans Ultimate. We're used to playing ASETEK Corsa, Competizione. We're used to playing Gran Turismo 7. We're used to those traditional sensations of force feedback. If you want to do something different, you have to explain it, in my opinion. You have to say, hey, this force feedback might feel different to what you're used to. This is why. This is our vision. In essence, Project Motor Racing came with a game that was very different to what's already on the market and didn't explain it at all. And it just, if you want to bring something different, you need to explain it. And they just didn't do that. Then we have all of the day one issues. If I remember, peripherals not really seeming to work properly for a lot of people. Also, server issues went down for a few days on launch, which is just like an absolute killer. The way the game is actually structured in terms of multiplayer is for me is a debacle, because you just sit looking at a timer. You can't go into a practice session. For me, it's madness. You're never going to be able to compete with iRacing unless you can get in and get into a practice server. That was crazy. Stuff like the multi-class single player is great until the hypercars actually catch GT3s, for example, and then they don't overtake, which completely breaks it. It's just like the career mode was kind of like implied to be like a brand new career mode. It's extremely basic. It's extremely bare bones. I could basically come up with that system in Excel in probably about 4 hours. Honestly, like, you know, if you look at my Sim Racing Tycoon game, it has a greater depth of economy than in Project Motor Racing, which is kind of crazy. And to be honest, I think it's kind of too late. I've never seen such toxicity in sim racing as I've seen with Project Motor Racing. I've never seen such a denial by people who want to believe their existing opinion to have that opinion changed. And so some people want to defend this game to the hilt, to death. Some people want this game to fail at all costs. The reality of the game was always somewhere in the middle. There was going to be some people who want to tweak with the force feedback, who want to tinker with the setups, who want to do a few outlaps and then come in and assess and then go out again. Those sort of people were going to enjoy the game from day one if it ran for them. There's also the people that just want to race, they want to race AI, they want to have good, fast, hard racing coming from the likes of, you know, ACC or GT7. And this is just not going to be for you, because the pace of the game is much slower. It's a much slower paced game, and they didn't explain it. I'm also disappointed by the way the game was marketed and not challenged. The game, I feel like I really challenged this game. Every hands-on experience I had and every piece of content I made on it, I challenged the game. I said, this is unusual. This needs to be improved. I don't like this. This is going to put people off. And my hunch is that not enough people do that in sim racing, and we ended up with a game that came out on day one. And as I said at the beginning of this video, it was a shock to Straight 4 Studios that it was not received the way they thought it was going to be received. But I knew it was going to be received like this. I knew it was going to be super divisive. I knew it was not going to be the game for a lot of people, especially for my hardcore audience who's used to kind of like frequent hard racing. There's so many just like blocks in Project Motor Racing for that happening. So it's been a mess all round, and I just don't know what to think with Project Motor Racing anymore. You know, there may be a kind of rebuild story. I feel sorry for the people that are going to be ploughing their undeniable talent and passion into this, when there's also passionate people and talented people working on Le Mans Ultimate, working on iRacing, and they're reaping the rewards of their effort. And I just think I'm not even sure I can see the light at the tunnel for Project Motor Racing, and it wasn't that far off from being something that people could understand on day one and say, well, I know that's not for me, so I'm not even going to try it. Or, yeah, this looks like it might be for me, but you know, I don't think it's going to be the best game for the world. Or you might be in a small portion like this. It really seems like it's going to be the best game for me. At the beginning they presented it to everyone and they left 90% of people massively disappointed, offended, and worst, for some people who'd bought it, out of pocket. Which is, I don't think it's going to be very difficult for them to recover from. Let me know your honest thoughts on Project Motor Racing in the comments. Where do they go from here? Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you like this very impartial, just like ruthless critical analysis, and I will see you in the next video.